Karoline Leavitt went from commanding political debates to breaking down outside a courthouse, all over a single sentence about Jasmine Crockett that sparked an $80 million reckoning. She said it like it was nothing, as if she were just finishing. A thought not tossing a match into a room soaked in gasoline. It was a Wednesday afternoon, just past 3:00 p.m. Eastern. Karoline sat at the far right end of the panel on American Flashpoint, a rapid-fire political show taped in Jacksonville. The conversation had already been tense. Funding disputes, crime stats, partisan standoffs. But things shifted when the host mentioned Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Karoline leaned forward, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, and said the line that would reverberate nationwide in under 2 hours. She's not serious. She plays the part. Emotional, dramatic, loud. That's her brand. She's not built for real policy. It was a quick comment, casual even. But the weight landed hard. The panel paused, not dramatically, just a beat too long. You could hear someone breathing through their nose. Then the show moved on. The comment didn't. Before the episode even ended, producers were fielding messages. One intern clipped the segment and posted it to the show's Twitter, thinking it might spark conversation. They were right. Within half an hour, it had thousands of retweets. On TikTok, the phrase emotional, dramatic, loud was slowed down, captioned, repeated. People dissected every inflection. But that wasn't the real explosion. The original clip didn't show Karoline's expression, the slight smirk, the knowing tone. In an El Paso nail salon, a woman shook her head watching the clip. "Why is it always the same stereotype?" she muttered. In a Youngstown factory break room, someone said bluntly, "She knew exactly what she was doing." Meanwhile, back in Jacksonville, Karoline sat in the makeup room scrolling. The first comments were typical. "Preach." So true. She's right. Then came the wave. Angry replies, hashtags with her name, accusations of racial undertones. Still, she didn't get it. "They're overreacting," she muttered. Her stylist, Gina, paused. "You sure about that? 'Cause people are mad, Karoline, and it's not going away." She dismissed it. "They always blow up. Give it a day." But this wasn't blowing over. It was catching fire. That evening, Trevor Santiago from Right Now Weekly did a live reaction. "Coded language is worse than straight-up insults," he said, "because it's dressed up to sound reasonable, but hits the same nerve." Even commentators typically aligned with Karoline distanced themselves, posting things like "yikes" or "bad look." That night, Karoline's inbox overflowed. Brands paused campaigns. A PR agency bluntly asked, "Is this salvageable?" Still, she made no statement. No apology. She thought staying quiet would help. What she didn't realize was how far Jasmine Crockett was willing to go to defend her name. The next morning, Crockett addressed the issue, firmly, publicly, and deliberately. By Thursday morning, the story wasn't just for political junkies. It had spilled into everyday life. A substitute teacher in Scranton, a gas station cashier in Houston, everyone had an opinion. It wasn't political anymore. It was personal, cultural, racial. Karoline woke up to dozens of missed calls and a flood of texts. Her manager, Lyle, was waiting outside her condo. "You've got to get ahead of this," he said. Inside, she made coffee in silence while he read her headlines. Karoline Leavitt under fire for racial undertones. Crockett responds, "I know," what she meant. And then came the kicker. Colbert played the clip, calling it the triple S stereotype speed run. The crowd roared. Still, Karoline clung to her defiance. "They're twisting it. She is dramatic." Lyle replied, "Even if she is, do you know how that sounds coming from you in that tone, with that smirk?" Karoline was no stranger to controversy. She built her brand on sharp opinions. But this wasn't shaping up to be another news cycle. This had legs. Think pieces popped up. podcast monologues, 3-minute reaction videos, and Jasmine Crockett wasn't staying silent. She posted a raw video on her back porch. No script, just clarity. This isn't about being upset. It's about being labeled again, reduced again. The video went viral. Celebrities, athletes, activists reposted it. In Jacksonville, American Flashpoint pulled the episode. Their press team released a vague statement urging civility. Translation, please don't sue. Meanwhile, Karoline's world kept shrinking. Her aunt from Idaho texted, "What did you say? My church group is asking." A high school friend messaged, "Call me. I saw Twitter." Karoline still held out hope it would pass until her team received the email. Subject line, Notice of Intent to File Defamation Lawsuit, Crockett v. Leavitt. Bullet points listed $80 million in damages. Accusations of defamation, character attacks, incitement. 80? She whispered. Lyle nodded. That's a message. She's not playing. Still, Karoline resisted. This is insane. Over one comment. No, Lyle said. Over what that comment represents. The next few days dragged. Brands ghosted her. A podcast she co-hosted paused production. Her Friday guest spot was canceled. Still, she said nothing. Her media consultant, Shay Whitlow, warned her, "The longer you wait, the colder you look." Karoline tried to draft a statement. Deleted, rewrote, deleted again. Finally, with Shay's help, she posted, "The past few days have been incredibly difficult. I understand that my recent comment during a live panel caused pain. That was never my intention. I regret that my words have taken focus away from important issues. I hope we can return to productive dialogue soon." The backlash came quickly. Not an apology. No accountability. Too little, too late. She shut her phone off. That night, Crockett live-streamed again. She didn't name Karoline, but she didn't need to. "I've been called. Too loud, too much, too angry. Now even my emotion is called my brand. We're not swallowing that anymore." Cheers erupted in the comments. The next morning, Shay called. "You should have gone on camera." "That would have made it worse," Karoline said. "You can't out-silence the storm," Shay replied. "People already decided how you feel." And then the silence deepened. One by one, former allies ghosted her. By Monday morning, it was no longer just whispers. It was official. Jasmine. Crockett held a press conference in San Antonio. She wore a plain navy blazer and spoke with calm precision. "This isn't about politics. This is about boundaries that were crossed." Crockett's attorney announced the $80 million defamation lawsuit. This is about damage to reputation, to dignity, to an entire community. Reporters said the filing included past clips, posts, and transcripts, evidence this wasn't an isolated slip but a pattern. Karoline had no idea they'd been compiling that kind of case. She watched the stream from her parked car in Sarasota, too stunned to move. Shay didn't answer her call. CNN picked up the story. MSNBC ran the headline. Her name was trending, again. Her lawyer, Miles Carson, finally called. "This is worse than we thought. They've got receipts." "So what does she want?" Karoline asked. "Money?" "Maybe," Miles said. "But more than that, she wants to make a point." That afternoon, news outlets replayed one line over and over again. Jasmine Crockett's parting words. "We all make mistakes. But when those mistakes get televised, monetized, and weaponized, you lose the right to act like it's no big deal." By Tuesday, Karoline's mother called, concerned. "This isn't like before," she said. "This feels different." Karoline finally admitted, "I know." But she didn't realize how far the fallout had gone until she heard the silence from her own network. No calls, no messages, nothing. She drove to the studio, badge still working, but the cold shoulders were unmistakable. She knocked on her producer Angela's door. No answer, but it wasn't locked. Angela looked up. "Karoline, you shouldn't be here." "I'm not suspended," Karoline said. "Not officially," Angela replied. "But there's a review. Legal's involved." "Am I being fired?" Karoline asked. Angela hesitated. "It's being discussed." That was it. No statement. No defense. Just distance. The kind of silence that makes its own noise. She stepped onto the floor to heat, then got back into her car. She didn't start it. Just sat there with her hands on the wheel, trying not to scream. That night, a headline dropped on an insider media blog: "Network weighs termination of Leavitt amid defamation lawsuit." It cited multiple internal sources. Someone had leaked it. Maybe someone she used to share a makeup chair with. She turned off the lights in her apartment and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She couldn't decide which was worse: the lawsuit, the public dragging, or the feeling that the people who built her career were already deleting her number. At 11:12 p.m., she finally texted Shay. "They're letting me go. Not officially, but soon." Shay replied in 2 minutes. "I know. Heard from someone at booking." Karoline's eyes burned. "Is this salvageable?" 3 dots danced. "Not if you keep defending the comment. The longer you stand by it, the smaller your circle gets." Karoline stared at the screen. She hated that advice. But deep down, she knew Shay wasn't wrong. She had built her brand around never backing down, never apologizing unless it came with a punch. But now, there was no audience cheering. The next morning, her termination became official. A vague email. A quiet HR meeting. No press conference. No farewell. Just a bullet point in the news cycle. She was no longer with the network. But before she could regroup, something else slipped through the cracks. Private conversations leaked. To the media, ones that painted her in a way she wasn't ready to face. The leak came from a group chat. Not even a big one. Just a few insiders. Her name had come up in it before, mostly with praise and banter. But someone had screen recorded. A voice memo she sent days after the Crockett comment blew up. It wasn't meant for the public. It was raw, defensive, tired. She didn't even remember sending it. Just knew she was venting at 2 a.m., pacing barefoot, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Now the whole country had it. "I'm not racist," she said in the recording, voice low and shaky, "but I'm not going to pretend every time someone disagrees with me, it's because of their lived experience. This whole thing is theater. Jasmine knows what she's doing. She's milking this for attention." That line, "milking this for attention," was clipped and re-uploaded thousands of times, often without context. Hashtags flared again. Users added dramatic music, angry captions. A few tried to defend her, but it was a whisper in a hurricane. Karoline saw it all from the couch. She didn't move much those days, sweatshirt on, hair tied up, barely eating. It wasn't just the lawsuit, or the job, or the internet. It was the betrayal. She narrowed the leak to 2 people. One had shared dressing room stories with her. Another helped her prep for tough segments. It made her skin crawl to realize how quickly privacy turned into content in this world. She called again. "You've got to get ahead of this. Not with a statement. On camera. People need to see you." Karoline didn't answer. "You don't have the network or sponsors. What you've got left is your face, your eyes. Let them see what this has done to you." "Why should I have? To cry on cue to prove I'm human?" "Because you built a brand that doesn't blink." Silence. "So you're saying this is my fault?" "I'm saying you turned yourself into a brand. Now people are treating you like one." That landed hard. Later that evening, Karoline tried filming something. Just her iPhone, no lighting. Cross-legged on her floor. She tried 3 takes. Deleted each one. She didn't like how her voice sounded. Hated how tired she looked. couldn't get the words right. On the fourth try, she left it recording longer than planned. I used to think if I spoke loud enough, clear enough, nobody could twist it. I thought that was strength. But maybe I wasn't really listening to the people I was talking about. She paused, eyes on the lens. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness. I just know I don't want to be this version of myself anymore. She didn't post it, just saved it to drafts. Maybe saying it privately was enough. The next morning, her lawyer called. We need you sharp for pre-trial. They're coming in with full documentation, timelines. You need to be ready. Karoline wiped her face with her sleeve. Ready for what? To sit in a room where everything you've ever said into a mic gets read back to you by someone who wants to break you. That's when she finally broke. Not in front of a camera, not online, just alone, in the bathroom, on the floor between the tub and the sink, sobbing like a dam had split wide open. Her mom texted later, Still proud of you, still love you. Let me know if you want to come home. Karoline didn't reply. But while she crumbled in private, the public story only burned hotter. As the trial date neared, the pressure swelled. She arrived in Austin 4 days before the first court date. Her legal team booked her a suite with a view of the courthouse. Every morning it got harder to look at. Reporters were already circling. A podcast set up a temporary studio in a yoga loft just to cover the case. She wore sunglasses and a hoodie, just to walk 2 blocks. But it didn't work. A woman spotted her. She's here, the woman whispered into her phone. Looks tired. Back at the hotel, a housekeeper nodded politely. Didn't speak. But the silence from strangers now felt louder than the noise. Her lawyer ran prep drills twice a day, but nothing prepared her for when he slid a thick brown folder across the table. You need to read this. Crockett sighed. 90 pages, screenshots, dates, annotated quotes, even tiny clips that on their own meant little, but side by side, told a different story. A pattern. A weapon. Karoline paused on a screenshot from a live stream, her face frozen mid-sentence. The caption below, dismissive tone when referring to Crockett's housing proposal. She almost laughed. Dismissive tone was now evidence. Do I have a shot? She asked. Miles hesitated. We can argue intent, but if the jury connects the dots emotionally, that's harder. It's not about what you said. It's about what they believe you meant. She looked up. And what if they're right? He blinked, like he didn't expect the question. That night, she couldn't sleep. Sat by the window at 3 a.m., watching courthouse lights glow. Thought about walking down there, saying something, but she knew it wouldn't change anything. The internet didn't want answers. They wanted arcs, villains to fall, heroes to rise, and she wasn't in the hero column. The next day, someone leaked the witness list. Her stomach dropped. 2 ex-co-hosts, 1 producer, a communications consultant she'd fired after 1 call, people with receipts, people with scores to settle. She texted Shay. They're going to crucify me, Shay. Only if you walk yourself to the cross. But Karoline wasn't sure she had a choice. Opening statements came and went. Testimonies stacked up. Brenton from American Flashpoint recounted show prep where Karoline said, "Let's push," her buttons, referring to Crockett. Screenshots surfaced. She's going to snap. That's her thing. Miles argued it was internal chatter, not malice, but the jury watched the screen, not him. Then Jasmine took the stand. She was steady, clear. I expect disagreement, she said, but this wasn't about policy. This was about how I speak, how I move, about painting me as irrational and aggressive. That's a story people love to hear about women like me. Miles tried to counter. Do you believe Karoline meant to cause harm? Jasmine didn't blink. I believe she didn't care if she did. That hit harder than anger ever could. By the end of day 2, Karoline felt hollow, not broken, just scraped out. Then the jury deliberated. 3 days. Every hour dragged. And then, verdict. We find in favor of the plaintiff. $12 million. Not 80, but still. 12 million real reasons she'd feel this for a long time. Karoline didn't cry. Not yet. Not while the cameras still clicked. Later, in the hotel, she finally let go. Shaking, breathless. Not sure if she was grieving her money, her pride, her career, or just the version of herself she thought was untouchable. The next morning, she recorded a video. No script, no polish, just her. Being loud isn't enough. Being right isn't enough. If what I said hurt people, especially people I wasn't really listening to, then that matters. She paused. I won't fight the verdict. I won't spin it. I'll take the loss, but I won't waste it. She stayed in Austin another week, walked slow, ate alone, thought deeply. Eventually, she flew back to Sarasota. Her mom made soup, didn't mention the trial. One night, she posted something small. I held views I never thought to question, but I've spent the last few weeks doing exactly that. Reflection doesn't erase harm, but I'm not the same person who sat behind that panel months ago. She didn't want redemption, just room. She started volunteering at a community center. At first, people kept their distance, but she kept showing up, listened more than she spoke. One teenage girl approached her. You're that lady from TV, right? Karoline nodded. You said some messed up stuff? I did. The girl shrugged. But you came back. Karoline smiled. I'm trying. The girl nodded once. That counts. And maybe it did. Maybe the real story wasn't about the fall. It was about what came next.